Hello. Welcome to the Core Dog Experience here, talking Ohio State Buckeyes, college football, and everything in between. If you're checking me out for the first time, thank you. Appreciate it. Grew a lot last year, 2024. Trying to keep it going here in 2025. So hope you stick around, subscribe, like all that good stuff that we need y'all to do to help grow the channel. So again, appreciate if you checking me out. If you're back again, thank you. Had a little hiatus as off to do every now and then. Wanted to get this up there sooner, but had my fantasy football league to take care of as well. Had to do that. So now what I did was able to check out the game. Going to talk about the game in a little bit. Just want to acknowledge what the networks did for my man Lee Corso. I thought it was real beautiful what they did, all involved, Fox, ESPN, etc. I thought it was a real good way to send off someone who's become my icon of the sport. I mean, I used to watch game day just for him and what his picks were going to be. That's the reason why I would tune in to ESPN basically to see what Lee Corso was going to do, but till it got to be too much. Of some of the other stuff. Desmond Howard just gets on my nerves, so I didn't watch it as much as I used to. But I am really great that they did that for Lee Corso. All the way to Fox, ESPN. The band did a nice little tribute to him, and it was good to see that. And good to see them send Lee Corso out on a high note. A lot of his picks came through, which we will get to that. He picked Ohio State. Going out the way my man came in, starting off the headgear phenomenon. He started off with Ohio State, and damn it, he ended it picking Ohio State. So kudos to Mr. Lee Corso, and they're going to retire the headgear with him. Like, who would really want to follow Lee Corso trying to do the head pick gear? So kudos to them, Mr. Lee Corso. Thank you for everything you did for the sport of college football. Moving on to the game. Going to talk about the game, but just some of the stuff that just leading up to the game. 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3, however you pit it. A lot of folks had the game being somewhat close. A lot of people were picking Texas to win the game, which I get. They got a lot of folks coming back, but just some of the folks was getting just absurd with it. And y'all know who I'm talking about. The stuff that was coming out of Paul Feinbaum's mouth just made no sense. Now I know the man got a lot of followers. We know you say something absurd about Ohio State fans, they gonna rush to your thing. Was he trying to get some clicks? He just could have left it at Texas was gonna beat Ohio State. That's all he had to say. Like everybody else, Texas was gonna beat Ohio State, but no, he couldn't leave it there. He doubled down on it. Not only were they gonna beat Ohio State, but they gonna blow us out. Their roster 10 times better than ours. You just keep it going. Arch Manning, the second coming of whoever you want to throw out there. Arch Manning was better than him. The second coming, he gonna do all that and more. Like, I don't know if he doing it because he need clicks. I don't know, but it was just crazy. And of course, following the game. People let him have it. My man. He knew it was coming, so it was the final gun sounded 14-7 Ohio State. We're gonna get to the game. Just some of the stuff leading up to the game was just crazy. Following the game, some folks called out Paul Feinbaum, my man Ric Flair. Woo! Ric Flair called him out. Hey, boy, you need to just give it up, quit, stop with it. It's just nonsensical, some of the stuff that he was saying. But hey, was Texas go? Like I said, a lot of folks had Texas winning in a blowout, and some of the reasons he gave, you could say the same thing about Texas. Really, Ohio State lost a lot of games, lost a lot of players. They're going to have a hangover. How are they going to have a hangover? A lot of the players that won the championship left. These are a bunch of new folks, like Rod Day said. We ain't defending nothing. These are a bunch of new players trying to make their mark. So ain't going to be no hangover. Ain't going to be none of that stuff. These players are trying to prove that they trying to prove something on their own that ain't got nothing to do with last year's team. So a lot of the stuff he was just saying was just crazy. I mean, Texas rosters up and down the line is just better. Yeah, they better in some positions. Ohio State better in some positions. It balances it out, but to say they roster just hands and down better than us and they gonna blow us out on our field, come on now. They might win, but they were never gonna blow us out. But I had to pick that. It's gonna be interesting to see what Mr. Feinbaum has to say about some of his picks. A lot of his picks did not go well. Then they have Alabama winning. I know he's an SEC homer, but come on now, you gotta try to at least come off like you credible. You have to. And all the stuff he was saying about Manning, you know, a lot of it wasn't Manning saying it. These outside people saying it. Outside people, so like the, I don't want to bring her up, but the Caitlin Clark effect. They just wanted to play. Caitlin ain't had nothing to say. There's everybody else saying stuff. Archie ain't had nothing to say. There's everybody else saying stuff. Archie, he just wanted to get out there and play some football, you know. Yeah, when he got out there, his first start against a real opponent on the road, Archie ain't look all that good, did he? He ain't look good. He took him three and a half quarters to get going. He ain't look good. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a reason why he couldn't beat out Quinn Ewers. Maybe Sark saw what everybody saw that first half. Arch wasn't ready outside of a few set plays they had lined up for him last year. But to take over a whole game and run a whole game, we saw what that looked like. Because you have people saying if Arch had started last year in that playoff game, we would have won. Yeah, Texas fans saying we would have won it had it been Arch instead of Ewers. We would have won. But we saw what Arch did against this defense, which, according to Paul Feinbaum, this defense wasn't as good as last year's defense. On paper, may not be. At least at this point in the season, no telling what this team is going to evolve into defensively, which, by all counts, is going to be a damn good defense by the time we get near the end of the year. But according to, Archer started last year against last year's Ohio State defense, Texas would have won. Way this game played out, not so much, because, like I said, this defense on paper wasn't as good as that defense folks were claiming Arch would have beat last year. I'm just saying. There's a reason why he sat behind Quinn, and I think that played out quite obviously in that first 3.5 quarters. He made some good throws in the fourth quarter when Ohio State sort of let off some a little bit, but not to say he ain't going to go on and do stuff and win stuff, and he's going to have his moments, but he did not look good coming out the block for all the accolades other people were bestowing upon Arch Manning. Now the actual game. I just had to get out there. Before we get to the actual game, that y'all did see my stuff. Had to get the gear. Had to do it at least once. We all the defending national champions. According, even despite what Ryan Day says, it's a new team, which I get. You don't want these guys resting on their laurels and stuff or past accomplishment, because this is a new team. But we still, for all intents and purposes, Ohio State is the reigning champs until otherwise is proven. But the game itself, 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2, depending on what polls you are privy to. 14-7. Noon kickoff, 14-7. I think there's a reason why Texas, UT, did what a play a night game. Remember all that leading up to it? Night game, not night game. Peacock, Fox, Fox. Night game. Who they Texas don't want to play a night game, and I honestly feel if that was the case, Texas really not wanting to play a night game in Columbus. They saw what happened to the last UT team that came in here on a night game. So this UT team was like, nah, we can stay in that afternoon slot. We'll take that slot. They tried to come out here and get blasted like the other UT team did just a short while ago. We want no part of that beat down. And the way that game played out, 14-7, I thought they made a good, wise decision not to want to play night. Cause I think if this game had been played at a night game in Columbus in that atmosphere, given how Arch looked, the game could have been a lot worse than 14-7. They may not have scored. Is that hyperbole? I don't know, but a night game in Columbus, all the talk going into it that was coming from the other side, that very well could have been a blowout the other way. I'm just saying. We'll never know because the game was never played at night. But the game was played afternoon, good weather conditions from all intents and purposes. 14-7. 14-7. House they won 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2, or how you want it. The first, in some circles, was saying it's first a matchup to start the season between the number ranked 1 and 2 team, and some coaches poll Ohio State's number 2, AP polled her number 3. But however you pit it, first opening season game, we had those teams highly ranked playing one another. So again, Ohio State's a part of history, which we part of history. The game itself, it was a defensive struggle is an understatement on how the game actually played out. I always thought it was going to be a close game. I thought the defenses were going to be ahead of the offenses just by the simple fact you had 2 brand new quarterbacks that folks were breaking in, the teams were breaking in, and they were going to try and play it as close to the vest as possible, depending on how the game played out. I wasn't going to think it was going to be a high-scoring affair. I never thought it was going to be that way. I did have Ohio State winning by a touchdown. Touchdown to 10 points, I had Ohio State winning. So I just thought home game, they got stuff to prove themselves. I had more of a 24-14 type score. That's how I saw it. 24-14, played out 14-7 because the defenses were dominant. Probably looking at this, by the time they gets closer to the end of the year, playoffs are on the horizon, these might very well be the best 2 defenses in the league despite all the personnel both teams lost, which we are going to get into. But following the game, after the 14-7 win by Ohio State in the top matchup of the weekend, which were a lot of good top 10 matchups. What I think with the new era of college football, you might actually see more of these type of matchups because what's the penalty going to be? You're still going to get in. Ohio State proved it last year. You can get in with 2 losses and still do your damage like the Buckeyes proved last year. So you might see more of these high level matchups. Not to go down too far a road tangent before I get back to the game, but the SEC, they're going to the 9-game schedule, and their commissioner came out and said we want a high profile game in those non-conference games moving forward. So you might be seeing more of these type of matchups. Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Clemson, Alabama, Florida State. Might be seeing more of these high level matchups which the fans want to see. So it's kudos to those schools playing in these games this early in the season. But 14-7, Ohio State defensive game. What it was, a lot of conservative play calling, teams trying to protect their young quarterbacks. Let's face it, teams trying to protect their young quarterbacks. A lot was made following the game. A lot was made by Texas. You know, they had the penalties, which they did 2 big penalties, kept Ohio State's first touchdown drive alive. You know, that's part of the game. Penalties, well penalties that were well called. None of these phantom. No, those are penalties that needed to be called, and refs called them. So kept two drives alive. Kept the drive alive. C.J. Donaldson punched it in. Of course, the other touchdown, Julian saying, which we will get into, connected with Carnell Tate. Beautiful catch. Had to been more on money. Hope we don't get into that thing like Will Howard underthrowing on these deep passes, but Carnell made the adjustment and made the catch. 14-0. Now it's pretty much ball game, because Texas, they can move up and down the field. Just that bend and break mentality that the defense had, and the defense was elite. So again, a lot of was made about how Texas, at the end of the day, outgained Ohio State by nearly 100 yards, and which is fine. You can make that whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel good. But they're playing from behind. They were playing catch up basically the whole game. Ohio State, they played a very vanilla offense, very conservative, hard line, either by Ryan Day's decision making. Hardline played a very called game plan and called a very conservative game plan because he didn't really need to open it up. Our defense was playing that well that the offense did what the offense needed to do. Like someone mentioned, they only had 9 drives on the day because Texas did hold on to the ball. They did have long extended drives, but they couldn't score. Another goal line stand by that defense. Hope that becomes a theme this year like last year, because goal line, it was very hard to score on our defense last year from the goal line situation. And I know that was killing Texas fans. You could just see it. What Arch got stuffed on their little 4th down, trying to sneak it in on the goal line. It's like shades of last year. They're like, they're like, oh, not again. At least he held on to the ball. We didn't scoop it up and scoop and Sawyer on him. You know what I'm saying? But another goal line stand by the defense. But Ohio State only had 9 drives on the day, and for the most part, they were playing from bad field position. 4 of their drives started inside their own 10-yard line. So kudos to the Texas punter. Kept us pinned in, and you just ain't going to open up the offense with a young quarterback against that defense when you're deep in your own territory. Could the running game have been better? It's a work in progress. 2 new running backs, somewhat of a ramped offensive line you're going against, like I mentioned, one of the better defenses in the country, and they knew you ain't gonna have him throwing the ball too often in that situation. Almost had a safety because of a penalty. Good thing now they had the offsetting penalties right there, but the dude ripped off his helmet, so he held him. So he had the offsetting penalties, or it could have been a safety, but you saw the pressure they were getting, so they weren't going to try to throw it too much coming out of their own end zone and being backed up the way they were. So hopefully we'll get more out of the running game, but I think again, given the field situation throughout the course of the game, the defense they were going up against, it was a very conservative play calling afternoon, and they did just enough to get the victory because the defense allowed him to do that. Ryan Day even admitted if we could have had him, he felt if they needed to, they could have opened it up more, but they didn't really need to. You play to win the game, and that's what they did. Sometimes you play to win. They did what they needed to do to win the game, especially when they got up 14-0. You're not going to have them going out there winging it all over the field when you don't have to. Rely on your defense, and your defense came through time and time again. How many 4th down stops did they have? I don't know, but they had enough. Got to get the running game going. Got to get the running game going. I thought Donaldson looked good. Peoples looked good. Judkins, can he come back? Really, which y'all really want Quashawn to come back, or you want to just ride it out with the 2 running backs we got? Because there's reports out there, given what went down with Quashawn, which was unfortunate, but he has a possibility. Has he signed? I don't know. Has he signed? If he isn't, if he hasn't, there were rumors, always rumors, he could actually come back to Ohio State. I don't know if we would want that, but hey. But I would prefer him to go and do work something out for my Cleveland Browns. Browns need you more than Ohio State. I'm just saying. Browns could use you a little bit more than Ohio State right now. I think Ohio State will be alright. They'll be alright with their running game with what they got back there. C.J. Donaldson, Peoples, some of the freshmen. I think they'll be alright. Texas is a good defense. Texas is a good defense. There ain't too many people gonna run against Texas. Okay. Speaking of defense, like we mentioned, the offense didn't have to do much because the defense played their butts off. And they gave kudos to Matt Patricia throughout the course of the game. They mentioned how he was not the most, I don't know, controversial, but folks weren't sold on Matt Patricia coming in, replacing Jim Knowles, given what Jim Knowles did with last year's defense. Could Matt Patricia replicate it with, on paper, may not be as good of a defense. So what they did against Texas make that just more amazing on how they played. And again, I don't think that's the Texas offense that he went against. Is the Texas offense that's going to be the same offense 3-4 weeks from now, let alone by the end of the season when the playoffs are set to start. It's going to be a much different Texas offense. But for this version of Texas, his defense was on point. Like I said, gave up 7 total points. Couple stops in the red zone, including the goal line stand, had the interception. They had Arch thinking a lot in the passing game. They got pressure on them, and it was like they made life rough for Texas despite the yards they gained. I do think they called off the thing a little bit, and they got a lot of their yards in the fourth quarter, which teams are want to do when they're trying to come back. You're going to give up some stuff. So yeah, they got some yards, but all to talk about what they lost on defense. Yeah, they lost a lot on defense. Let's be honest, they lost a lot, plus the defensive coordinator. But the players they had coming back, it's not like these folks did not ever play a snap of football. Kenyatta, their whole front, they had to replace their whole front four. All those guys that are starting this year, from Kenyatta, McDaniel, Edric Houston, Caden Kirk, they played a lot of football last year. A lot of football. Wasn't the backups in on the goal line stand in the Penn State game? Those are your backups, I think, at least on the interior. A lot of playtime experience coming back. Arvell Reese, by all intents and purposes, may be better than Cody Simon. Sonny Styles got another year under his belt. Your linebacker core may actually be better than last year. Defensive ends might be deeper than last year. You got the players coming in from the transfer portal, Atkinson and the kid from I forgot his name, but just deep. And then C.J. Hicks. I'm so glad this could be a big year for C.J. Hicks, and I'm so glad to see him make that big play at the end of the game to close it out. That could be a thing of stuff to come from C.J. Hicks. So you're going to have a nice, fine rotation at defensive end. I just don't think there's going to be that drop-off that people anticipate on the defensive side of the ball, because these guys coming in have played a lot of football. Save for the one person they really may miss is Latham Ransom, and that's still debatable because the folks they have playing in his spot are just, like I said, Ohio State, they reload, and the folks they were reloading with got a lot of playtime experience last year, so I don't think that drop-off is going to be as steep as people think on the defensive side of the ball. The biggest drop-off, of course, is going to be quarterback and running back, and that's on the offensive side of the thing. Once those guys get broken in, Peoples, C.J. Donaldson, and saying, The offense may not be as good as last year. We'll see. But the defense, I don't think defense is going to miss a point if they can keep coaching it up like that. Now, grant you, they will be facing some better offensives down the road. Folks are going to trust their quarterback a little bit more to throw the ball because I don't think Sark really trusted Arch to throw the ball, especially after his first couple passes. Kept finding the dirt and the ground and all this other stuff, finding everything but his receivers. So like I said, all the talk about Arch Manning, which we know what it's about, if he would be Archie Franklin or any other last name, he wouldn't be getting the hype. He got in the hype because of the last name, which I get. I get it. He's a Manning. He's going to get the hype. Ask for it or not, he's going to get the hype. But all the talk you heard about Arch, you didn't hear none of the talk about our 5-star quarterback. Which is good because though I bet most of the country don't even know who the starting quarterback for Ohio State is. 5-star had a lot of accolades in his own right, but you wouldn't have known it. You wouldn't have known nothing about Julian said before the game, and a lot of folks probably didn't until he went out there and took the first snap. Oh, that's Ohio State starting quarterback. Julian who? Saying? Oh, okay. All right. He ain't Arch Manning, but all right. He got 5 stars. Okay. I guess all 5 stars aren't created equal. But Julian had him a nice, proficient game. He did what was asked of him to do. He's like saying, say what you want about the Ohio State offense. You say one about Brian Hartline and his play calling. I thought he called the game to win it. I said if they had asked Julian saying to open it up more, like they said, they felt he was prepared to do so if they needed him to do it. Because he was more accurate than Arch, let's face it. Arch missed a lot of easy throws. In particular, that fourth, was it the 3rd down and 5 throw? His guy had Caleb Downs beat, and he had to reach back and make it. He was just not accurate. Julian Sain, on the other hand, for the most part, was accurate. Like I said, on this pass to Carnell Tate, wish it would have been more out in front of him, but Carnell made the adjustment and was able to haul it in for that touchdown catch. But for the most part, Julian Sain was accurate on the day. Played a good ball game. He didn't force it, and they played to his strengths, or they played to, like I said, to win the game, not to put them in bad situations. Thought the offensive line pretty much held up. Was he sacked? I don't even remember him being sacked. He may have gotten pressured, but whatever they threw at him, he handled it well. And I think that's kudos to his coaching, and just kudos to Julian saying and how he prepared himself for this game to go against that type of defense and go against that team, because a lot was made of it. Got folks making their first ever career start against the #1 team. They don't normally fare very well. They were 0-18 in the last 20 years, which I did not know. A lot of this stuff, it pops up and I see it and I like, oh, I did not know that. 0-18, so I guess that led into Paul's prediction or whatever you want to call it. But that's why a lot of folks were picking Texas to win, because first quarterbacks making their first ever career start against the #1 team don't normally fare very, very well. But normally those teams are not ranked as high as Ohio State was. So they had a puncher's chance of breaking that streak. So yeah, so we can change that. 1-18 in the last 20 years that a quarterback making their first career start against the #1 team actually won the game. And of course, again, Ohio State does it again. I ain't gonna mention the other quarterback that did it. Do y'all's research, y'all can find out yourselves. But I said, Julian Sain, he had 126 yards, nothing earth-shattering. He managed the game and did enough to win it. I'm assuming next week they're going to open it up more against a lesser opponent. So we'll see how that goes. But Like I said, Matt Patricia's defense, Julian saying doing what he did, all the things that going on. It's hard to pick a MVP of the game of the day. A lot of people say Matt Patricia and his defensive performance and how the defense played was superb. But you know who I'm gonna give it to? I'm gonna give it to the damn band, the best damn band in the land. Not only did they have that beautiful Corso tribute, but anytime you can clown the other team, the upside down hook 'em horns, that's just pure money. Pure money. For my money, give them a helmet sticker. Give them a Buckeye leaf. The band was on point. That upside down hook 'em horns. You know how much that pisses them off. So I give the most valuable player of the game to the band. The Corso tribute and the upside down hook 'em horns. Just don't get no better than that. Don't get no better than that. At Ohio State, they keeping it rolling. Keeping it rolling. 26 straight season opening wins. Again, longest active streak going on right now. And then just talking about streaks. Look at the last, of course we're counting the playoffs, but going back to Indiana, the last 6 matchups against a top 5 opponent. Remember what the thing was about Ryan, that he couldn't beat the top 5. He Cooper this, Cooper that. He got a nice little streak. Not on wood, but that's a nice little streak. I don't care what sports you're playing. You do that against the top 5 ranked opponents, you're doing something right. You're doing something right when you can pull off that. So hopefully they can keep it going. So like someone was saying, it's Grambling State. Yeah, they deserve a Grambling State. No disrespect to Grambling State, but come on now, they ain't Texas, they ain't Notre Dame, who lost, by the way. They ain't them. Ain't Alabama. They ain't. This should be not a layup, but they should be able to get some stuff done against Grambling State, hopefully, and get ready for some more tougher games down the road and get some players some much needed experience. This is a good way to start off the season. Knock off the number 1 team in the land. We'll see if they're going to come out and be the new number 1. Some folks may not even want to move them up to number 1. Some folks may want to keep Penn State number 1. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting how that plays out. But for now, good game. Julian saying looked good. The defense might be, dare I say, better than last year. Jury is still out. Said the goal line stand, Matt Patricia. If he can keep that defense playing like that, Ohio State's going to be a tough out, regardless of who they play. So, again, you're joining me for the first time. Hope you enjoyed it. Please check out some of my other stuff. And if you're back again for more of the Core Dog experience, I appreciate you trying to baby steps, trying to grow this thing out. So, until next time, OHIO, go Bucks, I'm out.